Hi, Ed.
Hey Carol, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
All right. How's the weather in Cali?
Kind of cold, but not
You
not
look like
cold,
you're like all
cold.
bundled up there.
California cold.
California cold. I know it's like Florida cold.
Right,
It's 65
exactly.
and everyone's wearing Uggs and parkas.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I did wear Uggs and I have a sweater on, but it's probably 60.
So you're going to record this tonight, yes?
Yes, it's
Okay.
recording.
And then I'm going to have everyone just a call to action to have a little watch party for at least once or twice this month with your team, the rest of the team, so we can
Hmm.
kind of duplicate. Okay.
Great. Sounds
Awesome.
good. All right, people are coming on. I did a thing where people could go in a waiting room, but I thought that that was for before. But
Uh,
apparently it's during. So now I'm like clicking as people
okay.
join in. I've never done that before. So
Where's the trip that you guys are going on for Diamond Bound next year?
mm, we are going to Greece. It starts in Athens on some like small fancy cruise ship that has
Nice.
like a butler for each room. And then we get to go
Nice.
to the Italy farm.
Nice. Well,
Yeah,
that'll be good.
should be cool. Yeah, well, let's get started. It's going to be
Okay.
recorded, so anybody that joins in late, will be able to catch up. But Ed is part of our Young Living Ambassador program, sort of, right?
Actually, just got promoted to the Director of Global Education. So that is
What?
my new official role as of January 1, yes.
Oh, awesome. Yay. We need you in that role. Good.
I
I'm
mean, a lot of
so
people are very
thrilled.
happy about that, which makes me happy too.
Oh, yeah, I'm super thrilled because I know your vision and I feel like that it will really help give the field what we need in terms of education.
Well, we're going to start tonight.
Yes, exactly. So you want to share a little bit about your background and
Sure.
that?
I've been teaching for Young Living since 2010, actually, and been working full time since 2015. In fact, in April of this year, it'll celebrate my 5-year full time anniversary with Young Living. And before that, I worked as a registered nurse in oncology. I ran a surgical floor, worked in the operating room. I've worked on Park Avenue. Have developed 2 integrative therapy programs for Young Living, and it's just been a great ride so far, and I'm super excited what 2020 is going to bring for everybody that is on this call and everybody who's a member around the world, because we've got some great things planned. And I'm going to share a little bit about that right at the end as we close up.
Cool. Yay. All right. Well,
So would you like me just to jump right in, Carol? Or
yeah,
all
totally.
right, let me see. I want to share my screen here, and let me see if we can get that done. It's not doing that. Okay, so let's go to this and then go to slideshow. Sorry. Okay, so do you guys see that slide?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So this module that we're talking about is a series of educational modules. I have been obsessed with functional health and functional medicine for the last 5 years. My personal goal tonight is to teach you how to stay healthy and strong in a toxic world. And by the end of tonight's presentation, what's going to happen is that you're going to have a greater understanding about not only gut health and how Young Living fits into that, but also how gut health affects your overall brain health. So Super Gut, Super Brain is the title of our topic tonight. And just know, relax, sit back. It's all being recorded, and we'll tell you at the end what we'd like you to kind of hone in and focus on. So we do have some objectives for tonight. Number one is to understand the role of gut health in overall health, and to understand the relationship between your gut health and how it affects your brain. So if you're old enough, some of you may be and may not, you might remember a guy by the name of Linus Pauling. And he said many years ago that if you get the structure right, the function will follow. And what we're finding out through the functional health and functional medicine realm is that there's many things that affect the structure of our bodies that then affect the overall function of our bodies. And in functional medicine, they're looking to get to the root cause of the problem. Look, I worked in modern medicine for many, many years, over 25 years now. It's sort of like sticking a Band-Aid on a leaky dam. It doesn't really get to the root cause of things. So everything is in relationship. Your heart is in relationship to your kidneys. Your brain is in relationship to your gut, as we're going to talk about tonight. Your endocrine system is in relationship to what you put in your body, from food to the toxins you're exposed to. And the good news is that in functional medicine, they're actually looking at this problem and, again, getting to the root cause of it. So if I ask you a question, are you just a slave to your genes, or is it a combination of your gene, your genomic makeup, as we say, your environment, or your lifestyle? Well, it comes down to all three. So yes, we can have a gene for, say, breast cancer, but that doesn't necessarily mean that gene is going to get turned on if we're living a healthy lifestyle and we're living in an environment where we're not exposing ourselves to a lot of endotoxins and things of that nature. So what turns those things on, those genes on, is, again, the combination of your lifestyle and your environment. And the functional health folks call this biohacking. So the great news is that you can biohack your way to health. And probably a majority of you on this call are making great decisions every day about your own health and wellness. The bad news is that many people in life are biohacking their way to illness. Let's take an example. You have two guys, both age 55. One guy smokes, one guy drinks a lot, one guy puts a lot of personal care products that are laden with toxins in his body. He's stressed out, doesn't express his emotions. Well, he's biohacking his way to illness. You take his opposite, who's not smoking, not drinking, handles his stress well, eats great foods close to their natural food source. He's biohacking his way to health. And so we have choices every day that help us to biohack our way to health or biohack our way to illness. So assimilation and elimination, there's four things that we look at. We look at digestion, we look at absorption, the foods you eat, are they being absorbed? We look at excretion, and we look at the uptake of nutrients, which is very close to absorption as well. So, most people think it's okay, I poop twice a day, I'm cool, like my digestion's good. Well, that's not necessarily true. I'm working with a couple of people now, actually in our corporate office, who are employees. Their digestion is terrible. So we're working on how we can get things moving through their body, because the body's not set up to hold on to the excrement that it has in it. And then you can eat great foods and you can take a lot of supplements, but maybe the gastric lining is not really set up to absorb all those nutrients. So it's a little bit more than just going to the bathroom a couple of times a day. And we're going to focus in on that a lot tonight. So if you look at the anatomy of the GI system, you have the upper GI system, you have the lower GI system, and you have what we call accessory organs. So those are things like the gallbladder, the pancreas, and the liver. The liver is basically the house of toxin removal. And if you can imagine the liver having 10 doors or portals going into it, right? And these are all having a toxin at each portal. There's literally thousands of toxins behind there because we're exposed to so many, even though we live healthy lifestyles. The water, the food, the air, everything we're exposed to is exposing. And the liver has an amazing job to do. That's another module that we developed as well, which maybe next month we can talk about that a little bit more. So the process of digestion actually begins in the mouth. When you start to chew food, amylase breaks down those carbohydrates. It gets to your stomach. Pepsin is added to break down the protein. It gets to the duodenum. Bile is added. And what's the result of that is called chyme. And that travels from the small intestine to the large intestine, eventually till you go to the bathroom in the morning. Now, how did we get to the point where doctors today are not looking at gut health the way they did many years ago? We have to look back in history. Actually, there was a guy, his name was Dr. Henry Cotton, and he was truly a quack, folks. He was a psychiatrist. He believed that insanity was the result of chronic infections, and his cure, get this, was to remove many parts of the intestinal tract. And he had a team of people who were removing tongues, parts of the stomach, parts of the esophagus, parts of the liver, parts of the gallbladder. They were doing everything, right? Well, he was found out in the 1930s that he was falsifying his data, and that a third of his patients died from these complications, these surgeries that he was doing to cure their infections. It was that point, every physician, this was a guy who was extremely popular in Europe and the United States, and every doctor in those countries basically went like this. They said, we are not going to talk about gut health anymore. The good news is that is changing, because if you look at every ad on TV these days, people everywhere are talking about gut health, and rightly so, because it is one of the best and most important things that we have to pay attention on a regular basis. So there's 4 R's of gut health. The first one is to remove. Okay, so what are we trying to remove? I call them the frightening 5. We look at dairy, we look at gluten, we look at soy and GMO products, we look at sugar and peanuts. Dairy is inflammatory in nature. We're the only mammal that drinks another mammal's milk. Gluten is inflammatory in nature. It's genetically modified as well, as we know. GMOs, we know that they're bad for the body. I found out a couple of years ago that 95% of the salmon in Canada is genetically modified. That's frightening. Sugar creates what we call advanced glycation end products, which basically you're creating inflammation. And peanuts and nuts are just actually very poorly absorbed in the body. So the second R is we want to replace. We want to look at lower gluten foods. We want to look at things like einkorn. We want to have foods that have no pesticides in them. And this is where the einkorn products actually fit in really, really well. And, you know, I leave my house when I travel with einkorn granola, because the snacks at the airport, folks, are just not good at all. The third R is replace. Now we have to replace with enzymes. I wrote a paper in nursing school 27 years ago, and I thought that enzymes were kind of a hoax. And I'm 27 years smarter now, and I do know that enzymes are actually some of the most important things to help us break down our foods, to make the digestive process easy. And my personal protocol is, 4 to 10 detoxime in the morning and in the evening. I take Essential Zymes 4 with every meal, and I switch my protocol up every month. So this month I'm actually doing Essential Zymes 4. Next month I'm going to switch to Allerzyme. The following month I just go to straight up Essential Zymes. So I'm switching my protocol so that my body doesn't adapt to the fact that I'm giving it enzymes every time I eat. And we have a plethora of enzymes: Detoxzyme, Essential Zyme, Allerzyme. So there's always a great choice, and your body will actually have less oxidation by the fact that you're helping it with Essential Zymes or some kind of digestive enzyme as you go along. Now we also need to replace with fiber. Most of us are not eating enough fruit or getting enough fiber in our diets on a daily basis. And so ICP is the fiber of choice. It's got psyllium, oat bran, flax, and fennel. If you are taking this, if you are using this product, please, please, please make sure you're drinking a lot of water, and make sure you're drinking it out of a glass bottle or a Miron glass bottle or a hydrogized bottle, because the regular plastic bottles contain a lot of BPA, which is an endotoxin, not really good for you as well. I probably get 1 or 2 messages a week on Facebook: hey, I just started taking ICP and I'm not going to the bathroom. And my question is, how much water are you drinking? So make sure you're taking a lot of water. And the last is to re-inoculate. That's the last R. So, there's science and the data out there that shows that Life9, the strains of Life9, actually repopulate the gut's microbiome very, very efficiently. And I learned this from a chiropractor in Dallas, Texas a few years ago. She sent me all the articles, and I read them because I'm kind of a geek. And I was just amazed by that. And so you can go on PubMed and find all those articles there. You can find all the strains listed, and you can see the research that was done on there. Now, sometimes people need a little bit more. When it comes to Life9, everyone, 1 is a maintenance dose. I'm doing 3 to 4 a night. I go through a bottle of Life9 very quickly. I'm personally augmenting with other strains as well, because I know that my gut needs more strains and more than 17 billion parts per serving to help my gut's microbiome. So that's just me. And I'm not promoting any other products, but I'm just saying, me personally, I've got to do a little bit more besides Life 9. So when should I take my probiotic? That's really the common question I get. And many suggest at bedtime, others suggest in the morning. I'm going to say at bedtime. And if you are traveling, please make sure you are amping up your probiotic regime, because travel takes a heavy load on the gut. So make sure you're doing that at bedtime. But there are several times, like I went to Asia last year. As soon as I got to Singapore, I loaded up on Life 9 and probiotics, and I loaded up when I went to bed as well. So I was doing it twice a day because of my travel. Now, if you look at the TV shows and commercials, they'll tell you that Activia is the way to go, and it's going to repopulate and give you fiber, and it's going to give you probiotics. It's a joke. It's not even effective, because when you look at Activia, you look at it and you can see that there's milk, fat, and sugar are the first two ingredients in that. So this is what I call very clever marketing. And what's happening is that consumers are led to believe that, oh, I can just have my Activia and my gut's going to be okay. And they really don't realize that they're actually doing more harm than good to their gut. The last R is replenish. The gut needs a lot of help when it comes to giving it the nutriments it needs to be healthy. And the gut mucosa is what we're really honing in and focusing in on. So the first one is zinc. Zinc is so important to the health of the gut mucosa. And then the second one is B5, or pantothenic acid. Now, food sources are not a farm-raised salmon, but a fresh wild-caught salmon. And then avocados are another great source as well. So you can get those from food sources too. We'll talk a little bit about where we can get it from Young Living as well too later on. Oh, here it is. You can get your zinc and B5 actually from Master Formula. Zinc has 15 milligrams per day, which is needed. Master Formula provides this. It's actually an excellent source of pantothenic acid as well. And, you know, Gary was actually known to be a master distiller and blender of oils, but he was also brilliant at distilling and helping to infuse our Young Living supplements with essential oils as well. I also like to look toward omega Gi's 3, 2 to 3 grams a day is what's needed. We can look to food sources as well, but it helps to support cognitive and brain function as well as cardiovascular health. So we need these omega-3 fatty acids mainly for the brain health, so our brain is vibrant too. Now, L-glutamine is also very important, not to be confused with glutathione or glutamate. So we get these from spinach, kale, Brussels sprouts, and papaya. Now, Brussels sprouts I'll talk briefly about because I love Brussels sprouts. I love broccoli and I love cauliflower. When you cook these vegetables, everyone, it's great for L-glutamine for the gut health, but when you cut them in half and let them sit for about 45 minutes, they start to release compounds called indole-3 and sulforaphane. When you ingest that food, what happens then is that turns on your genetic expression for detoxification and for immunity. You know, Mary said to me last year, she goes, Ed, food is life. And I'm like, bravo, Mary, yes, food is life. So what you're eating every day is going to help your genetic expression a lot. So you really need about 5 grams a day. And if you're taking it as a supplement, you need to take it in between meals. If you're taking it as a food, you obviously just take it as food. So we talked a little bit about how that works on the gut level and how these are really important for the gut mucosa. But magnesium is another important element in your overall gut mucosa health. And I think we have an answer for that, and it's called mineral essence. Now, you only need 200 milligrams a day. Mineral essence has 379 milligrams per serving. You can also get it from leafy greens, nuts, and seeds. Now, I'm often told, Ed, this is really not a great product. It doesn't have a great taste. I agree, it doesn't taste great, but it's super important. So how my cocktail every morning is my Ningxia Red, my mineral essence. I'm currently on a regimen of doing some K&B for a little while, and I'll put a drop or two of peppermint or any kind of vitality oil in there, and I'll drink that shot first thing in the morning. Your B complex vitamins are super important as well. So Super B is one of our supplements. And you can see we're focusing on a lot of supplements tonight because it helps to maintain healthy energy levels, cardiovascular function, but also cognitive function. So some of these supplements are in here for obvious reasons in relationship to gut health, and some are in here for obvious reasons in relationship to brain health. So let's take a closer look at what we call the microbiome. And what is the gut's microbiome? What does it do? What's its purpose? Let's talk about that a little bit. So the microbiome is 100 trillion bacteria strong, and there's 10,000 different species of microbes. It's like a beehive, folks, and it is a very intrinsic part of your health. You know, your skin has what's called the stratobiome. Your other organs have microbiomes as well. And Doc Ollie and I have been talking a lot in recent months about how the major organs of the body all have their own microbiome. And the research is so new. You're starting to see skincare products now that are having probiotics on them as well, because we recognize the skin as the largest organ of the body. So let's ask some questions. Do you get indigestion often? 3 to 4 times a week. Do you get bloated often? 3 to 4 times a week. Are you somewhat sensitive to foods? And have you needed a lot of courses of antibiotics? Were you breastfed for at least a month? That's a good thing. Do you suffer from depression? Do you get constipated or have diarrhea often? Have you had to use steroid injections or medications? And do you have food allergies? So a couple of these are good, like if you've been breastfed for at least a month, that's a really good thing for your gut's microbiome. But if you've got depression, you're constipated a lot, you've used a lot of steroid medications, you're sluggish, you feel like you're sensitive to foods, you get bloated and indigestion a lot, this is an indication that your gut is asking for help. So one of the things that we've probably all experienced in life is what I call the gas attack. Last year, coming back from Australia, I got to experience firsthand in Delta One as I woke up from a nap coming back, and let's just say it didn't smell like essential oils on the airplane. And it really stunk pretty badly. I immediately got up. I had a bottle of Joy in my hand, and I was like anointing the gentleman next to me because I knew where it was coming from. He slept through the whole thing, and he smelled his shirt after when he woke up. He goes, I don't know what this is, but it smells really good. I was just laughing hysterically. This is actually, when you're having gas is natural, but if it's foul smelling, it's an indicator that you have what's called dysbiosis, which is we'll talk about that a little bit more. And it may be something more profound like irritable bowel disorders. So everyone's going to have gas, but it shouldn't really be that odoriferous. So the purpose of the microbiome is, number one, to protect us against physical barriers to pathogens, aids in digestion, it helps in detoxification, it helps in immunity, it helps handle the stress hormone response, assist in sleep, and it helps to control inflammation pathways. This is a money slide. Like if someone asks you, what does the microbiome do? It's got a big job. It's got a super big job to make sure you stay healthy on a regular basis. So when we look at the gut's microflora, we want good bacteria and we want bad bacteria. And we really want 85 good, 15% bad. And the bad have a role, which we're going to talk about. And this is a greater effect in the overall well-being of your gut health. So the good bacteria are called commensal or symbiotic. And the bad bacteria actually have an important job to do. So E. coli provides vitamin K, but too much can cause a bad illness. H. pylori is actually there so that it helps to regulate appetite. And C. difficile or Clostridium difficile plays an important role in the microbiome because when it's out of balance, people really get sick. And actually, about 14,000 people a year are dying from C. difficile toxins. So it stays at bay in the gut. If you take a course of antibiotics, it really kills off a lot of the bacteria, and C. difficile rises up, and that's when people get sick again. So back in 2008, the National Institutes of Health created the Human Microbiome Project. I have a question. Why does every doctor in the United States not know about the Human Microbiome Project? The answer is simple. They're not trained to. And it's not that they're bad people, that they don't know, but they haven't trained. And so if they haven't been trained, how can we expect them to know? So it's usually the functional medicine docs that are really on top of this, because they're looking at this core principle on a regular basis with their patients. When it comes down to health, it all comes down to managing free radicals and managing inflammation. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. Okay, what happened here? Okay, so there's these biochemicals in our body that cause inflammation. And they're called cytokines. And these cytokines are just basically small proteins that affect the behavior of other cells. Okay, there's three of them that are important. One is C-reactive protein. Number two is interleukin 6. And number three is TNFA, tumor necrosis factor alpha. So my question for everyone on the call tonight is, how much do you think Big Pharma is interested in any of these at all? Do you think they're really interested at all? Most people would say no. In fact, when I do this presentation, most people go, yeah, they're really not interested. Actually, they're really interested, because Big Pharma last year spent $20 billion on creating tumor necrosis factor alpha inhibitors. What does that tell me? That tells me is that if they can get you on a tumor necrosis factor inhibitor, you're going to probably be there pretty much for the rest of your life until we wake up and say, okay, this isn't working anymore. So Big Pharma is investing in treating symptoms. That's what they do. They don't get to the root cause of things. When we look at other problems, we have to look at sugar and inflammation. So sugar triggers a reaction called glycation. This glycation, it binds to fats and molecules, and it makes them not function well. And these are what we call the advanced glycation end products. And what happens is that the more advanced glycation end products you have in your body, the more inflammation you're going to have in your body. Okay, let me get this. Okay. All right, there was a guy, Dr. James Hill. He was a doctor and professor of neuroscience at Louisiana State Medical School, and he started looking at the microbiome and brain chemicals. So here we've talked a lot about gut health and what makes gut health and kind of what we need. Now we're making the link to how we can help the brain overall as we age. So the brain creates what's called brain-derived neurotropic factor. This is involved in neurogenesis and how neurons or brain cells are created. And it also protects existing neurons. So my question is, if your microbiome is not in good shape, do you think that you're going to produce a lot of BDNFA? The answer is no. Okay, GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. It is the main chemical messenger that calms nerve activity. Do you think if the microbiome is not in good health that you're going to have a lot of GABA? No, you're not, unfortunately. And glutamate. Now, glutamate assists in normal brain function. It is a neurotransmitter that helps in nerve signal. It helps with cognition, learning, and memory. So if you're having trouble with memory, as many Alzheimer's or dementia patients do, they have very low glutamate levels, okay? And it's abundant in a healthy brain. Actually, one of the studies that I read, it looked at people who were postmortem for Alzheimer's, and there was very little glutamate in their bodies. So again, the gut function is to obtain nutrients from food, block potential harmful particles like chemicals and bacteria, and the immunoglobulins bind to foreign invaders so that our gut stays overall healthy. There's a new concept, it's not so new really, last couple of years to come out, leaky gut, leaky brain. And we used to think that the blood-brain barrier was an impenetrable fortress. But what they're finding is that viruses, bacteria, and misshapen proteins, which cause a lot of potential problems in the body, are getting through. And this is causing changes in the microbiome, and it decreases the brain's ability to protect itself from toxins. So people who are having Alzheimer's, memory, dementia, Parkinson's things, these are people that have been exposed in their gut health. If you were to actually interview them, you would find out that their gut health has probably not been very good. So when we look at what's killing the microbiome, let's take a look. Well, number one is antibiotics. Now, look, if you have an infection, everyone, I'm a nurse. So I've been a nurse for a long time. And, sometimes these medicines are needed. But if you are taking, an antibiotic for some severe infection, then please make sure you're taking a boatload of probiotics like Life9 and other ones as well to beef up, because one course of an antibiotic, get this, can wipe out your gut's microbiome up to 33%. So can you imagine all those people who've been on multiple courses of antibiotics over the lifetime, what their microbiome looks like? The pill for women actually is not a really good thing. It helps to decrease your thyroid hormone, testosterone, it increases insulin resistance, inflammation, oxidative stress. It depletes the body of vitamins and minerals and antioxidants. I'm not a woman, so I'll never tell a woman what they can use on their body for birth control. I would suggest that we just find other alternatives to that so that we're not jacking up the gut's microbiome. Environmental chemicals. And I have some great news about environmental chemicals that I'm going to share with you. Not only does it jack up the gut's microbiome, but what they found out in a study from a guy by the name of Dr. Lee and Dr. Jacob. Dr. Lee was he was from South Korea, and they did some research in 2005. I'm diverting a little bit here. And what they found out, they were trying to link obesity to type 2 diabetes. And what they found out that obesity had nothing to do with type 2 diabetes. What they found out that those people who were obese that got type 2 diabetes, they had a biomarker in their gut called GGTP. Now that's a biomarker that you usually see with alcoholics or people with a lot of liver damage. It goes up with a lot of liver damage. And what they found out, it was because of their exposure to endotoxins, or they called them POPs, persistent organic pollutants. And so because they were exposed to all these toxins, they actually got more obese, which eventually then caused diabetic response in them. Well, guess what? If you started using the thieves line in your house on a regular basis, that would actually have a greater effect overall, because you're reducing your exposure to toxins, and that's going to eventually help you when you're trying to lose some weight. That's a great breakthrough. I just had a great talk with Julie Hunter from our conduct team yesterday, and she was like, absolutely go for that and share that. So we're not treating obesity with thieves, just so we're clear. We're reducing our exposure to toxins, which then helps with the obesity problem overall. And so we do have a plethora of these products, which we can use, from toothpaste to hand sanitizers to the oils to the soaps. And, hopefully in your house, you're using that everywhere you can go. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, they damage the gut lining and they increase your ability and risk of having a GI bleed as you get older. Again, occasional use is not a bad thing, but if you're using them on a regular basis, it's not a good thing. Herbicide-laden GMO foods. Again, we don't know what the outcome is going to be of all this genetically modified foods. And don't even get started on glyphosate. And thank God that those people are being held accountable now for all the damage they've done for all those years. So when it comes down to gut essentials, you need prebiotics, you need probiotics. Prebiotics, by the way, are in master formula as well. You need fermented foods, things like kimchi, things like kombucha is good. Just watch the sugar in kombucha. Low carb foods, because you want to have a low glycemic index. Gluten-free foods, and healthy fats. So your prebiotics come in the form of master formula. You're going to see I'm talking about some of these products again in a different way. And your probiotics, again, Life9, because it does help promote healthy digestion. It supports gut health, helps maintain your immune system health, and maintains normal intestinal function. And again, everyone, one is a maintenance dose. If you have any questions, just start taking 2 to 3 at night instead of 1. Your fermented foods and low-carb foods and gluten-free foods. I remember my mom, when I was young, we used to can all our food a lot. I have such great memories of that, being with my mom in the kitchen and spending time with her and, doing pickles and tomatoes and doing all those things, because that's what we had to do to live, because we didn't have a lot of money growing up. Your healthy fats can come from ghee or clarified butter, extra virgin olive oil, sesame oils, and avocados. Avocados are some of the best foods on the planet for you. I go nowhere without peppermint vitality and digize vitality. 2 or 3 drops of digize on my tongue and a drop or 2 of peppermint vitality after every meal as well, just giving my gut that additional support it needs. And just know that everybody on this call has a choice. You all have a choice in what you do on a regular basis and how you take care of your gut health. And I'm asking you, if you're on this call today, don't think about making a lot of changes all at once. I'd like you to consider to, why don't we say we're all gonna make one change in the next month. In fact, one of the people I'm working with at corporate, she's a very dear friend of mine. You know, she's having a lot of issues. And the first thing that I've asked her to do for the first 30 days is to exercise and walk for 4 days a week for 30 minutes. And we talked a little bit tonight after work, and it's been a couple weeks, and she's like, oh, well, I want to start talking about enzymes. I'm like, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to do one thing successfully for a month, and then we'll talk about what you're going to do next. Because if we do something and we're not successful, we just don't feel good about ourselves. And do small deeds with a lot of love, and then as you're successful, then you can start to tackle more things as we go. So I hope this was helpful to everyone. You know, these modules are so great to really teach people, and I love them. And I'm going to ask you that, you know, Carol's got this, and hopefully, Carol, you can distribute it to everybody on the call. I want you to share this with two people twice this month, with as many people as you can. So if you have it, say, look, I've got this Zoom meeting. I want you to come over to my house. Let's do a little watch party, and let's sit around and let's watch this. And then from there, have a little discussion. And this is how we effectively create change. And so we have the best products in the world with Young Living. And the goal of this is to really teach you how to use them in relationship to a very functional part of our body. And tonight's topic was gut health and brain health. So Carol, do you want to open it up to some questions, and maybe we can answer a few questions?
First of all, your camera's not working because you're just...
My camera's, oh no.
Yeah.
So we didn't get any of that. That's not good.
Well, we got the screen share, but we didn't
How's
get
that?
you.
Can you see me
Now
now?
I can see you, yes.
Okay, yeah. It prompted me in the thing. I just didn't click on it. Okay, now I'm there.
I have a question. When do
Go ahead.
you think is the best time to take Master Formula?
I take Master Formula at the start of the day. So by supplements, I like to give my body the nutrients it needs right out of the gate. So I find it helps a lot with just my overall energy and how I feel during the course of the day. Some people I know will take it at lunch. Not a big fan of taking it at nighttime. When do I need more of my energy and more of my nutrients? During the course of my day. So that's why I take it in the morning.
Okay, good to know. Okay, Juana is asking, is it okay to take supplements when doing the cleansing trio?
The cleansing trio. Yes, I mean, if you just want to focus on one thing, certainly the cleansing trio is, you know, that's okay. I personally would not skip a day of enzymes or a probiotic. That's just me, because I understand their importance. When you eat food, we're lucky because we're the only organism that uses a process called oxidation to use oxygen to help with food, but it actually causes a lot of rust as well in the body. So that's why I want to make sure that I'm getting my enzymes and I'm getting my probiotics on a regular basis as well. And I'm also actually at 58, I'm eating less food than I ever have in my life, because what they're finding too is that the more food you eat causes more oxidation, which causes more problems down the line with the body. So yeah, I think it's okay to do that as well.
Juana, do you want to unmute yourself and ask any other questions, follow-up questions? Anybody that has a question, feel free to either throw it in the chat or unmute yourself.
I want to hear your voices.
Thank you for answering that. I guess too, like, where do we start when we start doing supplements? I mean, there's so many choices to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I don't even know what to start with. That's
a great question. And, you know, I'm often asked, people will ask me, Ed, what do you recommend? And if I had a team, which I don't have a team, everyone, I'm not a Young Living member. So, but if I had a team, I would ask everyone on my team to start with 3 supplements. Master Formula, Ningxia Red, and Life 9. Ningxia Red, obviously, for its wonderful antioxidant properties. So if that's what you need and you really need to support for the body and the mind overall, I would start there. Master Formula, we're not getting the nutriments from our food that we used to, and most people's gut health is not in really good shape. And then Life 9, because we just need that probiotic infusion on a daily basis. So most people, I think that's a good place to start. In fact, I'm really happy that we're talking about this tonight, because a majority of the Americans that, you know, are in our country, our gut health is not a good thing. I mean, just look everywhere. It's just not, gut health is not in good shape. So you're going to get the fiber as well as you need from the Ningxia Red. You're going to get the nutriments and essential oils that you want from Master Formula, and you're going to get your probiotics. And then if I was to add one more, I would say get on some enzymes, get on some form of enzymes as a protocol. So, and everyone has different needs with their body. So some people may come to Young Living and not have a problem with gut health, and they may choose a different option. It's one of the things we're working on is an onboarding process for people so that they can make sense of the large amount of products that we have. So that's something from an educational standpoint we're working on.
Yeah, there's so many. I get
it
that.
It is. It's confusing.
That like there's so many, I don't know what to start with. But yeah, vitamin is usually like we don't get that, so we need that. And then the probiotic and obviously Ningxia. How do you know which, so you rotate through the different enzymes. What's the reason for that?
Well, my reasoning is that the body is wonderfully adaptive. And so if you're throwing the same thing at it over and over and over again, it builds up, my belief is it builds up some kind of resistance to it, where it says, okay, I'm not going to really recognize what you're putting at me. So then you have to take more. So the enzyme makeup in each one of those is very different. Like, okay, detoxime in the morning and evening, that's a standard. I'm okay with the body builds up a little bit of defense to it, whatever, but I have to make sure that I'm not letting the body identify. So switching up the enzymatic protocols every month or every couple of months is actually ideal. And so the body adjusts to the changes actually quite well.
Interesting. You have other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I have, over the course of the years, recognized that I definitely have a lot of gut issues. I worked with a wellness clinic here. I actually think I'm not far from you. I'm in Florida.
Okay.
And I worked with LifeWorks here in Clearwater. When my skin was basically falling off my arms from eczema, and went through a whole gut protocol, which completely changed my life around. Was amazing. I was not quite into Young Living yet, but in that process found a whole lot of food sensitivities that I had been already like questioning. I had already gone through this process where I'm like, this is causing inflammation, this is causing problems, this is causing problems. Well, that list now seems to have magnified even more. And so I'm at a point where I don't know where to go with it now, because I don't know where to start. There's so many things that I avoid. And now I'm at the point where I'm just afraid of even somewhat trying things.
Right.
For fear of having more, because sometimes I don't even recognize like what's causing the inflammation.
So my suggestion, I am not a medical doctor, but my suggestion is the first website I would go to is ifm.org, the International Functional Medicine website. And I would just put in your zip code. And I would say, if you're starting to have that many reactions to foods, like something is happening within the system and your body is saying, danger, danger, warning, warning. And rather than throwing more things at it in sort of a guessing game, which is really what it is, it's time to see a professional who's been trained in the process of getting to the root cause of the problem. Why are you having, so the question is, doc, why am I having so many problems and so many food sensitivities? Well, let's take a look at that. Let's do some blood work. Let's look at some biomarkers. Let's look at some, 10 years ago, I went to a functional medicine physician in Connecticut. And I spent $1,500 of my own money to do my initial 4-hour consultation with this woman. And the stack of paperwork assessment was this thick. It took me literally 4 hours to fill out. She spent 4 hours with me, rifled through my assessment and goes, oh, you have chronic inflammation and digestive issues. Let's talk about your diet. That's the first thing she did. And it was from that point on, I became very interested and said, wow, this is very interesting in how it's so different than what I'm trained in as a registered nurse, right? So that would be my suggestion. And I'm just going to say that you're worth every penny that you spend on yourself, because no one deserves to suffer and no one deserves to live in a state of agony or having problems and not being able to live life how they want to. So I think it's time for someone who really can, take a look at the whole picture of who you are and then give you the help you need. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm right actually in Sarasota. So if you have any, just Facebook me, message me. And if I can be of any future help for you, then I will. And
Awesome.
If you come up with a doc there, let me know, because I know most of them in the area, and I'll let you know if they're any good or not.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Thank you.
I've talked to pretty much all of them. So
that helps. Because that's kind of where, like, I'm like, okay, I can find one, but are they going to, like, how do I know? Like, how do I know I'm getting what I need to get from them or whatever? But so knowing that, that's amazing. Thank you.
You want someone who's been doing it for a long time, like Dr. Mark Hyman's been doing it for a long time. Jeffrey Bland is considered the father of functional medicine. I mean, he's been doing it a long time. There's a lot of big players in the field, but how long have they been practicing functional medicine? And what is their education on that? And just get a feel for them before you even go in there. You can look at all that stuff credentialing on their website usually.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
So for like a newbie that doesn't even understand what the heck functional medicine is, why would you want to go to a functional medicine person versus a regular doctor?
Okay, so back in the 1920s, health took a big turn because big pharma started getting involved. And then it took an even bigger turn in the 1960s because they started looking at treating symptoms of diseases rather than getting to the root cause of diseases. So the way physicians are trained today, it's still the same. They're not bad people. They're really good people. They believe in their cause. And that kind of medicine, emergency medicine and acute medicine, is needed. But it doesn't address the root cause. So let's give an example. John is not sleeping, he's 30 pounds overweight, and he's depressed. And he goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, okay, we're going to put you on Prozac, and we're going to put you on Ambien.
Right.
Both of those drugs are going to make the problem worse. Why is John not sleeping? Why is John depressed? And why is John overweight? And this is where the functional health physicians actually start to look at. And they look at your gut health and your brain health, assimilation and elimination. They look at detoxification. They look at defense, the body's immune system. They look at energy. They look at the structure, not just the physical structure, but the structure of your cells. They look at cellular communication and cellular transport. And they do a whole assessment based on that. They do testing based on that. And then they can say, hey, here's what we found. Let's correct those deficiencies to correct the complaint that you came here for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so again, doctors are just trained in a certain way because that's the way they've been trained for literally almost 100 years now,
right,
or more. And functional medicine has been around since the late 80s, early 90s, and more and more people are coming into the profession. I'm actually going to Phoenix in May. I'm so excited. It's actually the first time I'm getting to go to their international conference in May in Phoenix. And I'm there to be a student. And why do I want to be a student? So that I can transmit that information to you folks and then layer Young Living in there to show you how to use Young Living well. Because Young Living actually has a lot of stuff to help support the body from a functional health standpoint, which is really awesome.
Yeah, totally. Any other questions from anybody else? I have one question about fermented food.
Yes.
I like sauerkraut, but like how much sauerkraut do you need to eat? Because like I just like, a little bit on the side.
Yeah. I'm not a big kimchi fan at all. I've had it once. I think I almost got sick. whatever you can do. So if you're eating sauerkraut, there's a bunch of other fermented foods too. Anything that you can do that's fermented is going to be good. So even if it's just a small dose, it's going to be good. No one really, I mean, I think one time I had a Reuben in New York City. It was probably like this thick and it was just full of sauerkraut. I was just like, oh my God, this is so delicious. But I feel like I ate a pound of sauerkraut that day. So any little bit helps. And where you can get, probably the easiest way is just doing a kombucha or a kefir water, because it does have the fermentation process in it. But you just have to be careful of that, because a lot of them are very high in sugar. So you have to be very careful about kombucha. I love kombucha, but I limit myself to one a day. And I'm actually drinking more kefir water now than anything because of the sugar content. So just be careful with that one.
Young Living should come out with some kind of.
It's on my list, Carol. I got a whole list. I got a whole list of products. Don't worry. I'm talking to Jason Dewey almost every time I come out here. I'm producing this product because people, you know, as we start to align more as a company with our products and things, which is really good. And, you know, let's continue to do that to keep everybody healthy for Young Living. So a couple of good news things that I really want to share with you folks that are like really up and coming that we're working on in the global education team is, number one, we're working on a raindrop certification this year in Salt Lake City, Utah, which is really, really important. And we've had some great meetings with Mary and Tamara Packer. So be looking for some more of that information coming out soon. And we're also working in conjunction with Urban Zen Integrative Therapy Program to actually deliver 2 integrative therapy trainings this year for healthcare professionals and allied healthcare professionals. And Donna Karen has, and I have had a lot of great conversations in the last couple of months. And Donna's product of Urban Zen Integrative Therapy Program, which utilizes yoga therapy, aromatherapy, strictly Young Living essential oils, Reiki, nutrition, and contemplative care. That product is very effective. It just needs the right platform, and Young Living is the right platform for that. So those are 2 of the projects that I'm working on that are taking up a lot of my time, but just know that they're going to be so amazing when they come out, and just keep looking to the events page, because we're working on the behind the scenes to get that all to come public very, very soon. One of the other projects is that we're working on is a legacy or a journey series with 3 to 4 minute shareable videos of some people in the company who have a long history of being around Gary. Obviously, Mary, Jared Turner, Rex in the lab, Tamara Packer, John Wenton, who followed Gary for years as, you know, helping him out. So we're working on some video content for you all to share the stories about how some of the products and essential oils were created and the stories behind them, so that you can then share them. So these are all amazing things which I'm so happy to be a part of, that I'm working on a regular basis for you, our members, so that you can have the appropriate tools that you need to be successful.
Awesome.
Good stuff, right, Carol?
Yeah, super exciting. Yeah, just having like these classes. I mean, I know that there's only, you know, a handful of people on here, but I know it's like dinner time in California and bedtime in the East Coast, but you know, I'll put it in my education group and my business group. This is the kind of information that we've been like just needing for so long, because oils we can learn about and you can get stories about, but the supplements and why they're so important and how to use them and what they're best suited for, like that's just, and we have so many amazing supplements, but like I can't be the encyclopedia of supplements, and nor do I want to be, but like just to know like a handful of things that can really help with like this system or that system, that's going to be so helpful. So I really appreciate your time.
And Julie Hunter from our conduct team has basically, we met again yesterday for a little while, and I showed her the new module I was working on. She's just like, she has said to me, Ed, you have figured out a way to compliantly share our products with people, not talk about disease, but talk about ways of supporting key principles or functions in the body. So the good news is this has been built out, defense has been built out, detoxification is built out, structure is built out, energy has been built out. So these have all been built out, and it's basically talking about the problems that can happen and how we can correct it with Young Living. So Carol, I would love to do another call with your team next month. Let's pick another topic. And for everybody on the call, please just get with your friends and your teammates this month twice. Share this video with them when it gets sent to you by Carol. And this is how we effectively create change in the world. And this is exactly what Gary did. Gary went door to door, town to town, city to city, and he shared his passion and his love for Young Living. And look at what we've grown into today. So thank you, everyone, for being on this call. I really appreciate all of you. Carol, thank you for setting this up. And I will be in touch with you, and let's get a date on the books for next month.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Ed.
All right.
Everybody.
Thank you, everyone. You all have a great evening.
All right.
Bye-bye.